The Galactic Assembly's Mystery. The Galactic Assembly Hall was buzzing with unease. Delegates from over 100 alien species had gathered, their holographic forms flickering in the dim light of the Grand Chamber. Normally, these meetings were filled with discussions about trade agreements, border disputes, and technological advancements. But today was different. Today, the topic on everyone's minds was far more sinister. On the central days, High Chancellor Vokar of the Synth Coalition addressed the Assembly. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the hall. "Fellow delegates," he began, "we are faced with an unprecedented crisis. Over the last century, critical knowledge, ancient relics, and irreplaceable archives have vanished from the vaults of multiple civilizations. These are not random thefts, they are calculated and precise. Someone, or something, is erasing our shared history." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. The assembled species, from the towering, crystalline, Shalkari to the aquatic, floating Myralians, exchanged worried glances. Vokar raised a hand to quiet them. "Our investigators have uncovered one common thread," he continued. "Each of these lost artifacts points to a single, mysterious symbol, an image that defies our understanding of time and history." The hologram projector activated, displaying an image in the air above the dais. The symbol was simple yet profound. A humanoid figure with outstretched arms, surrounded by an intricate pattern of stars. The assembly grew silent. No one spoke for several moments. A small insectoid delegate from the Freelax system broke the silence. "That figure, it resembles a species we all know. A species we dismissed as primitive. Are you suggesting this is connected to humans?" The murmurs returned, louder this time. Humans. The word itself seemed absurd in this context. Earth, the homeworld of humans, was considered a minor planet on the galactic scale. Its people were known for their resourcefulness and stubbornness, but lacked the technological prowess of other species. How could they be involved in something so ancient and vast? High Chancellor Vokar nodded gravely. "The evidence is undeniable. Our scholars have traced this symbol to carvings found on a desolate planet in the Androlith system, a world abandoned for over 10 million years. The carvings predate our earliest known records, yet they match the appearance of humans. How can this be?" The assembly erupted into chaos. Some delegates laughed in disbelief, while others shouted in alarm. The Myralian ambassador floated forward, her translucent body shimmering. "If what you say is true, Chancellor, then humans are far more than they appear. But how could such a species exist unnoticed for so long? They are barely a few thousand years into space exploration." Another voice cut through the din. It belonged to Draktol, a hulking reptilian from the Torvak Dominion. His tone was sharp and skeptical. "This is nonsense. Humans are scavengers, nothing more. They are no different from the dust beneath my claws. To suggest they are connected to an elder species is an insult to our intelligence." Vokar's eyes narrowed. "And yet, Ambassador Draktol, humans have accomplished what even your great dominion could not. They have thrived on a hostile world, survived countless wars, and risen from their own ashes more times than we can count. Does that not speak to something extraordinary?" The room fell silent again as his words hung in the air. The delegates, despite their differences, couldn't deny the truth. Humans were a puzzle, a species that didn't fit neatly into the patterns of galactic evolution. They had no right to survive, let alone thrive, and yet they had. Still, the idea that they could be connected to an ancient mystery was almost too much to believe. A young, daring scholar from the Silari Research Collective stepped forward. Her voice trembled but held determination. "What if humans are the key to this puzzle? If they are linked to the elder species, they might hold answers we've been seeking for millennia. But we cannot assume. We must investigate." Vokar nodded, his expression grim. "That is why I propose a mission to Earth. We will approach them under the guise of diplomacy, but our true purpose will be to uncover their secrets. If humans truly are connected to the elder species, We must know the truth. The assembly debated for hours. Some argued against interfering with a lesser species, citing galactic law. Others believed the stakes were too high to ignore. By the end of the session, a fragile consensus was reached. A team of scientists, diplomats, and covert operatives would be sent to Earth to investigate. As the meeting adjourned, Volker lingered in the empty hall, staring at the humanoid symbol hovering above the dais. Deep down, he felt a chill he couldn't explain. Something about this mystery unsettled him in a way no threat ever had. For centuries, the galaxy had believed in its own superiority, its own mastery of the stars. But now, for the first time, they were beginning to doubt. What if humans were not just another species? What if they were something older, something far more dangerous? As the High Chancellor walked away, he muttered to himself, "We might be poking at a sleeping giant, and we have no idea what will awaken." First contact gone wrong. The starship Lumen's Quest, sleek and bristling with cutting-edge alien technology, dropped out of hyperspace near the edge of the Sol system. It was the pride of the Galactic Assembly, outfitted with stealth capabilities and armed with tools designed for reconnaissance, not war. On board were 12 of the most elite operatives from different species, each chosen for their expertise in observation, diplomacy, or subterfuge. Their mission was simple: investigate the humans and gather evidence of their alleged connection to the ancient elder species. Captain Tyrell, a disciplined officer from the reptilian Voltran Empire, stood on the bridge. Her scales shimmered under the dim light of the control panels. "Approach quietly," she ordered. "Activate cloaking fields. I want this mission to remain undetected." The crew complied without question. The ship glided silently toward the small blue-green planet called Earth, its unassuming appearance masking the secrets it might hold. As they neared the planet's orbit, sensors picked up something unexpected: a massive object floating near Earth's moon. At first, it appeared to be a natural formation, an asteroid, perhaps, but closer scans revealed intricate designs and structural patterns. It was a station, ancient yet surprisingly intact. "What is that?" murmured Sela, a Mayralian analyst whose semi-transparent form rippled with unease. "It's not on any of our star charts." Tyrell leaned forward, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Enhance the image." The projection zoomed in, revealing the unmistakable outline of human craftsmanship. It was crude compared to the sleek designs of the assembly ships, yet it radiated an aura of purpose and resilience. Faint markings on its surface matched the symbol discovered on Andrelith. "Humans built this," scoffed Zorvik, a hulking Enkar warrior. "Looks like it's held together with luck and rust." But Sela shook her head. "No. This is old, far older than their current level of technology. The material doesn't match anything they've used in the past few centuries. This is from another era." Before the crew could process the discovery, a signal crackled through their comms. It wasn't human, not exactly. The voice was metallic, cold, and calculating. "Unidentified vessel," it said. "You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself, or face immediate consequences." The crew froze. Tyrell quickly motioned for silence. "They've detected us. That's impossible. Activate the cloaking disruptor. They shouldn't be able to." The ship suddenly lurched. Warning alarms blared as the Lumen's Quest was caught in a gravitational field, pulling it toward the ancient station. The cloaking field flickered and failed, leaving the ship exposed. "It's a tractor beam," Sela shouted, her voice trembling. "But the power levels, it's nothing like we've seen before. Shut it down." Tyrell barked, her claws digging into the armrests of her command chair. But the beam was relentless, dragging the ship closer to the station. As the crew scrambled to regain control, a fleet of small, unmanned drones emerged from the station. They surrounded the Lumen's Quest, their sleek black frames glinting ominously in the starlight. Each drone projected a holographic message directly into the minds of the crew. "You were warned." Without warning, The drones fired a barrage of electromagnetic pulses. The Lumen's Quest's systems went dark, leaving the ship adrift and helpless. Panic spread among the crew, but Tyrell remained calm, her military instincts kicking in. "Prepare for boarding," she growled. "Whatever they're sending, we'll deal with it face to face." The ship trembled as something lashed onto its hull. Moments later, the airlocks hissed open. The crew braced themselves for an attack, weapons drawn, but what stepped through the doors wasn't what they expected. A single human entered the ship, wearing an advanced but minimalist suit that seemed to hum with hidden energy. His face was obscured by a visor, and his movements were slow, deliberate. He carried no weapons, yet his presence filled the room with an unsettling authority. "You should not have come here," the human said, his voice calm but firm. "Your curiosity has put you in great danger." Tyrell stepped forward, towering over the human. "Who are you to threaten us? We are representatives of the Galactic Assembly. We came here in peace." The human tilted his head, as if amused. "Peace? You trespass on sacred grounds. You meddle in things you do not understand. And now you've awakened something that has been dormant for millennia." The human raised a hand, and the air around him shimmered. A holographic map appeared, showing the galaxy in intricate detail. Dozens of red points began to light up across the map. What is this?" Sela whispered, her translucent skin flickering with fear. The human's tone grew darker. "These are the remnants of humanity's ancient enemies. You've stirred their sensors by coming here. They know we're watching. And now, they'll come looking." Before the crew could respond, the human turned to leave. "Consider this your only warning," he said over his shoulder. "Leave now, while you still can. Because if you stay, the galaxy will remember what humanity is capable of. And you won't like what you find." With that, the human stepped back into the airlock. The drones released their grip on the ship, and the tractor beam disengaged. The Lumen's Quest was free to leave, but the crew remained frozen in place, shaken to their cores. Tyrell finally broke the silence. "Set course back to the assembly," she ordered. "We need to report this immediately." As the ship retreated into hyperspace, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they had narrowly escaped something far worse than they could imagine. But deep down, they all knew the humans were hiding something. And it wasn't just their history, it was their power. Hidden human history. The Galactic Assembly's council chamber was in uproar when the Lumen's Quest returned with its damaged systems and rattled crew. Every delegate wanted answers, but Captain Tyrell refused to speak until she had a private audience with the High Chancellor himself. When the meeting finally took place, Tyrell's report sent a chill through the room. "They knew we were coming," she said, her voice steady but tense. "They weren't surprised or alarmed. They were prepared. And what we found out there," she paused, her claws tapping rhythmically on the polished table, "it wasn't just a warning. It was a demonstration." Volker leaned back in his chair, his serpentine eyes narrowing. "Prepared? Are you suggesting the humans anticipated a stealth mission from the Galactic Assembly? That's preposterous." Tyrell's expression darkened. "Preposterous? Then explain the station orbiting their moon, an ancient structure with power readings that surpass anything we've ever built, or the way their operative disarmed our ship without so much as lifting a weapon. They've been watching us, Chancellor. They've been watching everyone." The room fell silent. Volker, though skeptical, couldn't dismiss Tyrell's reputation for integrity. He gestured for her to continue. "They showed us a galactic map," she said. "It highlighted dormant threats they claim are remnants of their ancient enemies. And if what they're saying is true, then the humans aren't just hiding secrets. They're protecting the galaxy from something far worse." Days later, an elite task force of archaeologists and researchers was dispatched to Earth under the guise of formal diplomacy. Their leader was Dr. Sarek, a auxiliary scholar known for uncovering the ruins of a forgotten civilization on Vordran IV. Aboard their vessel, the Orium Dawn, Sarek reviewed the fragmented data from the Lumen's Quest. Ancient enemies, Sarek muttered, examining the holographic map. Why would a species barely capable of interstellar travel have access to this kind of information? Unless they've been here before. As they neared Earth, Sarek's suspicions deepened. Scans of the planet's surface revealed inconsistencies, vast underground structures beneath Antarctica, unusual energy signatures in the Himalayas, and strange patterns in the ocean depths. Earth was more than it seemed, and humanity's story was far from ordinary. The task force's arrival was met with surprising warmth. Human diplomats, dressed in simple yet elegant attire, greeted the alien delegation with open arms. They spoke fluent Galactic standard, their tones polite but guarded. "Welcome to Earth," said Ambassador Elena Royce, her voice calm and confident. "We hope this visit will foster mutual understanding and trust." But Sarek couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Humanity's representatives spoke with the ease of seasoned politicians, yet their eyes hinted at something deeper, a knowledge they weren't sharing. The delegation was granted access to Earth's public archives, but it wasn't long before Sarek's team began to notice gaps in the records. Key moments in human history seemed deliberately omitted. The rise and fall of civilizations were documented in detail, but the earliest periods of humanity's existence were conspicuously vague. "It's like someone wiped their past clean," said Velok, a Mauralian data analyst. "There's no mention of their origins, no evidence of how they developed so rapidly. It doesn't make sense." Sarek nodded. "They're hiding something. But why?" The breakthrough came when an anonymous tip led Sarek to an abandoned research facility deep in the Arctic. The task force, accompanied by a contingent of human guides, braved the harsh conditions to reach the site. The entrance was sealed, but human engineers opened it with ease, as if they'd always known the way. Inside, the air was thick with the weight of forgotten history. The walls were lined with symbols eerily similar to those found on the Andrelith carvings. In the center of the chamber stood a massive device, its design far beyond anything Sarek had ever seen. It hummed softly, as if waiting to be activated. "What is this?" Sarek asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ambassador Royce stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "This is one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. It's called the Sentience Core. It's been dormant for thousands of years." Sarek's eyes widened. "Thousands? You're admitting this predates your recorded history?" Royce hesitated, then nodded. "Our records don't tell the whole story, Dr. Sarek. Humanity isn't just a species. We're a legacy, a continuation of something far older." Before Sarek could press further, the core began to glow. Its energy filled the room, and a holographic projection appeared. The image was of a galaxy in turmoil, entire systems consumed by a faceless enemy. A voice, ancient and solemn, echoed through the chamber. "If you are hearing this, then the seal has been broken. The galaxy stands on the brink of awakening. Humanity, the guardians of knowledge and power, must rise again." The room fell silent. Royce turned to the stunned aliens. "Now you understand why we've kept our past hidden. Humanity once stood at the center of the galaxy's greatest conflict. We survived, but at a cost. To protect the future, we chose to forget." Sarek was speechless. Everything he thought he knew about humans had been turned upside down. They weren't primitive upstarts. They were survivors of a forgotten age. And if the hologram was to be believed, their role in the galaxy was far from over. As the group prepared to leave the facility, Royce gave Sarek a final warning. "Be careful with what you've learned here. Knowledge is power, but it also brings responsibility. Some truths are better left buried." But Sarek couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Humanity's history was a puzzle, and the more pieces he uncovered, the more dangerous the picture became. Humanity's lost legacy. The discovery of the Sentience Core sent shockwaves through the Galactic Assembly. Dr. Sarek and his team returned with fragmented data, but the implications were undeniable. Humanity's claim of a forgotten past was no longer a theory. It was a looming truth. Yet the humans remained maddeningly tight-lipped about the details. Back on Earth, the atmosphere was tense. Ambassador Elena Royce sat across from the Assembly's representatives in a sprawling, high-tech conference room. The walls were lined with holographic displays of Earth's landscapes, but their serene beauty only highlighted the tension in the room. "We've shared enough," Royce said, her tone firm but diplomatic. "The sentience core is a relic of a time we do not wish to relive. Its activation was unintentional and unwise." "Unwise?" Captain Terrell shot back, her reptilian eyes narrowing. "That device is a beacon of knowledge. You can't expect us to ignore the significance of what we've seen. The galaxy deserves the truth." Royce met her gaze without flinching. "The truth is dangerous, Captain. You don't understand the burden that comes with it. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way." Meanwhile, the Assembly's covered operatives worked tirelessly to uncover more about humanity's hidden history. They intercepted transmissions, infiltrated archives, and even attempted to breach restricted areas on Earth. But every effort was met with failure. One operative, a cunning Torvak named Saren, managed to slip into an underground facility beneath the Himalayas. What he found there shook him to his core. Rows upon rows of stasis chambers lined the cavernous space. Each chamber contained a humanoid figure, perfectly preserved. Their appearance was unmistakably human, but their features were sharper, their builds stronger. They radiated an aura of power even in their dormant state. Saren activated his communicator, his voice trembling. "These aren't normal humans. They're enhanced, modified, and there are thousands of them." Before he could transmit more, the chamber filled with a low hum. A figure emerged from the shadows, a human in a sleek, glowing exosuit. Her face was obscured, but her voice was calm and commanding. "You shouldn't be here," she said, raising her hand. Saren's vision blurred, and the transmission went silent. Back at the Assembly, the evidence was mounting. A secret report compiled by Sarek and his team pieced together fragments of what they'd learned. Humanity, it seemed, had once been the pinnacle of galactic civilization. They had ruled not through conquest, but through influence, sharing their advanced knowledge with other species and fostering peace. Their empire had been a beacon of hope in a chaotic galaxy. But that golden age came to an abrupt end. A catastrophic war erupted against an enemy unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, an ancient malevolent force that sought to consume and control. The records were vague, but the devastation was clear. Entire star systems were wiped out, planets reduced to ash. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the war ended. Humanity disappeared from the galactic stage, retreating to Earth and erasing nearly all traces of their empire. They rebuilt their civilization from scratch, hiding their true history even from themselves. Why would they do this? Volker asked as he read the report. "Fear," Sarek replied. "They feared that if their knowledge or power fell into the wrong hands, it would destroy the galaxy. So they became the guardians of their own secrets, protecting the galaxy by ensuring no one could repeat their mistakes." The Assembly was divided. Some delegates believed humanity's caution was justified, while others saw it as arrogance. Terrell, ever the pragmatist, was among the latter. They'd been hoarding technology and knowledge that could benefit the entire galaxy, she argued during a heated council session. And they've done it under the pretense of protection. But who protects us from them? Her words struck a nerve. The idea that humanity might still possess dangerous power unsettled many. A resolution was passed to demand full transparency from Earth. When Royce received the Assembly's ultimatum, her response was swift and resolute. "Humanity is not your enemy," she said in a public broadcast, "but we will not compromise our principles to satisfy your curiosity. The knowledge we guard is not just dangerous, it is catastrophic. You don't know what you're asking." The broadcast included a chilling warning. Royce showed the holographic map from the sentience core, zooming in on one of the red points. "This," she explained, "is not just a symbol. It's a signal. Our enemies, the ones we fought to contain, are still out there. They've been dormant, waiting. If we reveal too much, we risk awakening them. And if they rise again, none of us will survive. Her words sent ripples of fear through the galaxy. The assembly debated whether to back down or press further, but the decision was made for them. In the far reaches of the Androlith system, where the first carvings had been discovered, an ancient ship powered on. Its dark hull glimmered with energy, and its long-dormant systems began to hum. The carvings were not warnings, they were triggers. Humanity's enemies had been waiting for signs of their return, and now, the galaxy had unwittingly lit the signal fires. As Royce stared at the growing red dots on the galactic map, she whispered to herself, "We tried to protect them, but they wouldn't listen." The realization. The Galactic Assembly reconvened in a state of panic. Royce's broadcast had shaken the Council to its core, but the ripple effects were worse. Reports of ancient ships, similar to the one detected in the Androlith system, began pouring in from across the galaxy. These vessels were activating in uninhabited sectors, their movements calculated and deliberate. On Earth, Royce sat in the war room, a secure underground facility filled with advanced technology that dwarfed anything most assembly species could comprehend. The holographic map projected above the table displayed the galaxy with alarming clarity. Red dots, representing the awakened ships, were spreading like a virus. General Ivan Grekov, a battle-hardened human military strategist, leaned over the table. "They're responding to the activation of the sentience core," he said, his voice low and grim. It wasn't just a repository of knowledge, it was a failsafe, a silent alarm. Royce nodded. We warned them, and they didn't listen." Across the galaxy, the aliens were beginning to piece together the same horrifying truth. The red dots were not random, they were converging. One by one, they were heading for a singular point in space, the galactic core. In the assembly chamber, Dr. Sarek presented his findings to the Council. He stood before a holographic projection of the ancient ships, their jagged designs and pulsating energy fields unlike anything the galaxy had seen. "These ships are not remnants of humanity," he explained. "They belong to an enemy so old that even the humans considered them ancient. The signals we've been detecting are not just movements. They are strategic alignments. They're preparing for something." "Preparing for what?" demanded Terrell, her voice sharp. Sarek hesitated. "We don't know. But if the humans' warnings are accurate, it's likely a full-scale resurgence of whatever wiped out their empire millennia ago." Terrell's claws scraped against the table as she leaned forward. "Then why aren't they doing more? If this threat is so grave, why aren't the humans leading the charge?" Sarek sighed. "Because they've already fought this war, and they barely survived." Meanwhile, on Earth, Royce was briefing the human leadership on the worsening crisis. The sentience core's partial activation had been enough to awaken dormant threats, but humanity's hidden arsenal wasn't ready. "The Assembly will push us for more access," Royce said. "They think we're holding back resources that could stop this." "They're not wrong," General Grekov replied. "But giving them access will only make things worse. They don't understand what they're up against." Royce gestured toward the map. "We can't hold them off forever. If they force our hand—" Grekov cut her off. "We won't let them. But if they push too hard, we'll show them what humanity is capable of." The Assembly's breaking point came when an Androlith ship entered the Ryden system, a hub of intergalactic trade. The vessel ignored all attempts at communication and launched devastating energy weapons at the orbital stations. Entire cities on the planet below were reduced to ash in seconds. The survivors described the attack as surgical and merciless. The ship wasn't conquering, it was erasing. In the aftermath, the Assembly demanded an emergency summit with Earth's leaders. Royce and her team agreed, but the meeting was tense from the start. "You knew this was coming," Terrell roared, her scaled fists slamming onto the table. "You had the technology, the knowledge to stop this, and you kept it from us." Royce's expression didn't waver. "We warned you. We told you this knowledge was dangerous. And now you've woken a threat that even we fear." Frell's voice tricked with scorn. "Fear? That's what drives your secrecy. Humanity may be the so-called elder species, but all I see are cowards hiding behind warnings." Royce stood slowly, her calm demeanor unshaken. "Cowards," she repeated. "You think we're cowards because we chose to protect the galaxy from itself. Because we buried our power rather than risk destroying everything we built." She gestured toward the galactic map, where red dots were now outnumbering green assembly markers. "You call us cowards, Captain Terrell, but your people couldn't survive what we did. We didn't just fight this enemy, we outlasted it. And the cost was nearly everything." The room fell silent. Royce's voice softened, but it carried a weight that pressed down on everyone present. Humanity chose to forget its past because remembering it was too painful. We erased our empire, our victories, and even our failures. But the scars remain. And now, because of your meddling, we have no choice but to confront the ghosts we've tried to bury. In the days following the summit, the Assembly voted to form a united coalition under humanity's guidance. But even with the combined strength of the galaxy's species, doubts lingered. The Androlith ships were ancient, yet their technology was leagues beyond anything the Assembly had encountered. Royce convened with her inner circle in the war room. General Grekov, Dr. Sarek, and the enigmatic operative who had intercepted Saren in the Himalayas, known only as Cade, were present. "We don't have enough time to bring our full arsenal online," Grekov said. "If we're going to stop this, we need to outthink them." Cade, silent until now, spoke up. "The Assembly is our distraction. Let them hold the line while we prepare the final contingency." Royce frowned. "You're suggesting we gamble on the core?" Cade nodded. "It's our only chance. The core wasn't just a failsafe, it's a key. If we unlock it fully, we might be able to shut down the Androlith fleet remotely." Sarek interjected. "And if it fails?" Cade's expression was cold. "Then we unleash everything we've hidden. The galaxy will know what humanity is truly capable of." Royce exhaled, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. "Do it," she said. "Activate the core. If humanity must rise again, then let it rise as the galaxy's last hope." Humanity's warning. The sentience core roared to life, flooding the war room with a brilliance that seemed to pierce the very fabric of time. Symbols and patterns, far older than even humanity's recollection, swirled across its surface. Royce, Grekov, Cade, and Sarek stood in silence as the ancient artifact spoke in a deep, resonant voice. "The veil has been lifted. The Watchers stir. You tread a dangerous path." Royce stepped forward. "We have no choice," she said, addressing the core directly. "The galaxy is at the brink. If you hold the key to stopping this, we need it now." The core's response was slow, deliberate. "To unlock the knowledge you seek is to awaken the shadows you buried. Are you prepared to face what lies beyond?" Royce's resolve was firm. "We are." The core pulsed once, and a cascade of data flooded the room. Star maps, schematics, and ancient battle plans projected into the air. The core had revealed humanity's greatest secret. The remnants of their long-lost empire were not entirely gone. Hidden across the galaxy were caches of technology and weaponry, powerful enough to turn the tide but perilous to wield. As the Assembly's coalition scrambled to prepare their fleets, humanity began activating these hidden caches. On a barren moon in the Kessera system, a massive vault opened for the first time in 10,000 years. Inside were machines of war, sleek, deadly constructs that moved with a precision that rivaled anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the oceans of Earth, ancient submarines, larger than cities, rose from the depths. Their hulls shimmered with an alloy that defied all known physics. Across the planet, forgotten technologies hummed to life, their dormant systems awakening with terrifying efficiency. The assembly watched in awe and fear as humanity's preparations unfolded. From their vantage point, it was clear that humanity had never been as primitive as they pretended. The veil of ignorance that had shrouded their history was now a distant memory. Tyrell, still skeptical but deeply unsettled, addressed Royce during a tense meeting aboard the Assembly's flagship. "This is what you've been hiding from us," she demanded, gesturing to a live feed of one of humanity's war machines tearing through asteroid debris with ease. "You had weapons like this all along, and you let us believe you were defenseless." Royce's expression was cold. "Defenseless. We defended you without you ever realizing it. These weapons were never meant to be used again, but your interference has forced our hand." Tyrell's voice rose. "How do we know you won't turn these weapons on us once this threat is over?" Royce leaned forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "If we wanted to destroy you, Captain Tyrell, you'd already be dust. The only reason your species exists is because we allowed it. Remember that before you question our intentions." Despite the tension, the Assembly and humanity worked together to form a plan. The Androlith ships were converging on the galactic core, and intelligence gathered from the core revealed why. Hidden within the core was an ancient superweapon, one capable of wiping out entire galaxies. It had been dormant for millennia, but the Androlith were reawakening it. The Coalition's goal was clear: stop the Androlith before they could activate the weapon. But humanity issued a stern warning. "These aren't just ships," Royce said during a galactic-wide broadcast. "They're extensions of something greater, an intelligence that operates beyond our understanding. If you engage them recklessly, you will be annihilated." The first major engagement occurred in the Osirian Nebula. A combined fleet of Assembly and human ships intercepted a vanguard of Androlith vessels. The Assembly ships opened fire first, their plasma cannons and ion torpedoes lighting up the nebula in a dazzling display. But the Androlith ships didn't respond in kind. Instead, they adapted. Their hulls morphed and reconfigured, absorbing the energy and redirecting it back tenfold. Entire Assembly cruisers disintegrated in moments. Humanity's response was swift and surgical. Their ships, smaller but far more advanced, deployed autonomous drones that moved like a swarm. Each drone targeted weak points in the Androlith ships' defenses, disrupting their energy fields and slowing their advance. The battle was brutal. Even with humanity's precision strikes, the Androlith ships seemed endless. For every one destroyed, two more emerged from hyperspace. The Assembly's forces began to falter. In the midst of the chaos, Cade executed a daring plan. Using one of the ancient technologies retrieved from a hidden cache, he and a small team infiltrated an Androlith ship. The interior was unlike anything they'd ever seen, a maze of shifting corridors and pulsating walls that seemed alive. "This isn't a ship," Cade muttered, his voice echoing through the communicator. "It's a living organism." At the heart of the ship, Cade's team found a control nexus, an orb of dark, writhing energy. As they approached, it reacted, sending out waves of psychic energy that invaded their minds. Memories, fears, and visions of destruction flooded their senses. Cade gritted his teeth, focusing on the device he carried, a neural disruptor designed to sever the Androlith's connection to their fleet. "Hold the line," he growled. "This ends now." With a final surge of effort, Cade activated the disruptor. The orb screamed, a sound that wasn't heard but felt, and the entire ship convulsed. Outside, the Androlith fleet faltered, their coordination momentarily disrupted. The Coalition used the opening to retreat and regroup. Though the battle had cost them dearly, they now had valuable intel. The Androlith ships weren't just following orders, they were part of a larger hive mind. To stop the fleet, they would have to sever its central intelligence. Back on Earth, Royce addressed the Coalition leaders. "This was just the beginning. The Androlith will adapt to our tactics, and next time, we won't be so lucky. If we're going to win, we need to strike at their heart. And that means going deeper than anyone has ever dared, into the galactic core itself. As the meeting ended, Royce turned to Cade. "Prepare the core for full activation. If we fail, we'll need every weapon we have." Cade nodded. "And if we succeed?" Royce's gaze was cold and unyielding. "Then humanity's warning will have been enough. Too late to turn back." The fleet was silent as it hung in orbit above the galactic core, a vast region of swirling energy and gravitational chaos. Even the most advanced sensors struggled to make sense of the massive structure that loomed at the center. A gargantuan construct of impossible design, pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly light. This was the heart of the Andrelith, an ancient superweapon capable of obliterating entire galaxies. Humanity had long known of its existence, but even they had never dared to approach it directly. Now, they had no choice. Royce stood on the command deck of the Erebus, humanity's flagship, a relic from their lost empire, newly reactivated and brimming with technology that defied the galaxy's understanding. Around her, the Coalition fleet prepared for what was likely a suicide mission. "All ships, report readiness," Royce said calmly, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the air. Reports came in one by one. Assembly cruisers, human warships, and even a few civilian vessels converted into makeshift combat ships confirmed their positions. General Grekov's image appeared on a nearby holoscreen. "The fleets are ready, but we don't have the firepower to take that thing down. Whatever we do, it has to be fast." "It will be," Royce said. "Cade is already inside." Cade and his infiltration team had entered the Andrelith heart hours earlier, using the cover of the fleet's initial approach to slip past the enemy's defenses. The interior was unlike anything they'd encountered before, a biomechanical nightmare of shifting walls, pulsating veins of energy, and an oppressive psychic presence that seemed to press down on their very souls. "This place isn't just alive," one of his team members whispered. "It's aware." Cade gritted his teeth. "Focus. We have a mission to complete." At the center of the structure was the Nexus Core, the central intelligence controlling the Andrelith fleet. If they could sever its connection, they might disable the ships long enough for the Coalition to strike. But as they moved deeper, the psychic pressure intensified. The Andrelith were not mere machines. They were ancient, sentient entities bound together by a hive mind. And they were aware of the humans' presence. Outside, the battle erupted. The Andrelith fleet swarmed the Coalition forces with relentless precision. Assembly ships fell quickly, their shields and weapons no match for the adaptive strategies of the enemy. Even humanity's advanced war machines struggled to hold the line. On the Erebus, Royce issued rapid-fire commands, directing the human fleet to counter the Andrelith's attacks. But she knew they were only buying time. "We need that Nexus down," she muttered, staring at the tactical display. "Cade, you better move fast." Inside the heart, Cade's team reached the Nexus Core, a massive, pulsating sphere of dark energy that seemed to radiate malice. As they approached, tendrils of energy lashed out, forcing them to dodge and weave. "This thing's defending itself," one operative shouted, firing a disruptor weapon at a tendril. Cade activated the neural disruptor they had brought, a device designed to sever the hive mind's connection. As the disruptor powered up, the Nexus responded violently. The entire structure began to quake, and a deafening psychic scream filled the air. "It's fighting us," Cade yelled. "Hold the line. We're almost there." The disruptor reached full power, unleashing a wave of energy that slammed into the Nexus. For a moment, the Andrelith ships outside faltered, their movements becoming erratic. On the battlefield, Royce saw her chance. "All ships, focus fire on the enemy fleet," she commanded. The Coalition forces surged forward, exploiting the Andrelith's momentary weakness. Human drones swarmed the larger ships, targeting critical points with devastating precision. Assembly ships provided covert fire, their plasma cannons and ion torpedoes tearing through weakened defenses. But the Andrelith were far from defeated. The Nexus began to adapt, re-establishing control over the fleet. The psychic scream intensified, and Cade's team found themselves under direct assault. Cade gritted his teeth as the psychic pressure threatened to overwhelm him. Memories of his past, his fears, and his failures flooded his mind, but he forced himself to focus. "We have one shot at this," he said, pulling out a backup device, an ancient human artifact known as the Genesis Key. It was a last resort, a weapon that could destroy the Nexus, but at a cost. "Cade, what are you doing?" one of his team members shouted. "I'm finishing this," he replied, activating the Genesis Key. The device unleashed a blinding wave of energy that engulfed the Nexus. The entire heart of the Andrelith began to collapse, its structure disintegrating as the Nexus was destroyed. Outside, the Andrelith fleet faltered once more, but this time it didn't recover. Without the Nexus, the ships became aimless, their coordinated strategies falling apart. The coalition forces pushed forward, destroying the remaining vessels with ruthless efficiency. On the Erebus, Royce watched as the last of the Andrelith ships were obliterated. "It's over," she said softly. But the victory came at a cost. Cade's team didn't make it out. The collapse of the heart had claimed their lives, and the Genesis Key's activation had ensured there was no turning back. Royce addressed the coalition in a final broadcast. "The Andrelith are defeated, but their threat has not been erased. We must remain vigilant. Humanity will continue to safeguard its knowledge, not for power, but for protection." Her gaze hardened. "You've seen what we're capable of. Let this be a reminder. Humanity does not seek dominance, but if the galaxy's survival depends on us rising again, then we will not hesitate." As the coalition forces dispersed, the galaxy began to rebuild. Humanity returned to its quiet vigilance, retreating once more into the shadows. But the Andrelith's destruction left questions unanswered. Deep in the void, far beyond the galactic core, an ancient signal pulsed faintly. Something else had noticed the conflict. Something far older and far worse.